and they were going to file an injunction with the judge, and they thought their remarks about creationism were so obviously religiously motivated that they would ask them about the newspaper's accounts of their religious remarks about creationism. Bill Buckingham also talked about, won't somebody stand up for God at these public meetings? And this would kind of be a slam dunk. This would go away, and the Thomas More Law Center would have to go looking for another test case. Well, in the depositions, when they were asked about their remarks about creationism, Bill Buckingham, Sheila Harkins, Alan Bonsall, all these board members, they said, oh, no, we never talk about creationism. Those reporters lie. I wasn't one of the reporters, but when I heard that, I got a phone call from Steve Harvey, one of the lawyers in that, and he said, they called you liars, Laurie. He called me right after, and I go, what are you talking about? He says, they said that reporters lie. And I'm going, that's not possible. And I just remember being so livid because that's cheating, you know. I mean, you know, what about the, and I asked Dick Thompson, the lawyer for the parent or the school board right after this, I said, what about the thou shalt not bear false witness? Doesn't that, and he said he didn't know what I was talking about. Anyway, I was so upset about this, that I started working on trying to find something that would show those two reporters, who, by the way, one was a Mormon, and the other one was a Baptist who started the Bible club in his high school, they slandered their fellow Christians in this context. But I was so upset that I started looking for some proof to show what the truth was in this. And so I called news stations, because this was a big issue, and I kept calling around and saying, did you do any pieces on this? And I finally got a reporter named Jen Sherlock, and I said, did you interview Bill Buckingham at all? Oh, yeah. Did he talk about creationism? Oh, yeah. I said, creationism, not intelligent design. She goes, oh, no, he talked about creationism. This was right after a school board meeting. And I said, can I get a copy of this tape? Sure, come on over. So this is him on Fox News, right after a school board meeting, and in it, yeah, and I wish I had the live video. Oops, sorry, I don't know how to do that. Okay, we'll let that sit there. And in it, he said he wanted to see something else in the biology books taught alongside evolution, like creationism. That was used heavily during the trial. And that's Heidi Bernhard Buck, and she is one of the reporters who wrote about that. And I want to tell you something about this. This became a big issue during the trial. The plaintiff's attorneys felt they needed to get their newspaper accounts into the public record. But to do that, the defense attorneys, Thomas More Law Center, wanted to cross-examine them to their biases and why they chose to, everything they heard, and they couldn't do that. The reporters felt in good conscience that there was no way they could do that because they would have essentially could become the eyes and ears for one side or another. They could become a cheerleader for one side. They would ruin their neutrality. So, but if they didn't agree to testify, they were facing contempt of court, possible contempt of court violations. So, the day that this is outside the courtroom, but this is the Heidi, before she came in and said she would not testify in her deposition, came in, and the last thing she did before leaving the house that morning was she nursed her baby, and not knowing if she was going to come home that night. But she stood up. She stood up, and she refused to. And Joe Maldonado, who ran, he's just a stringer. He ran a peanut butter and jelly stand at the market, and he had stopped buying peanut butter because he didn't want, if he was going to be in jail, he didn't want to have this excess to lay out the money, and he'd have to close his market stand for that. So eventually they worked it out, and the judge allowed them just to testify to what they had written, and this was okay. So they came in and they testified, and I can tell you, I held my breath. I didn't breathe. I talked to other reporters who were almost in tears watching this because they were amazing, because they had the truth on their side. And I'd like to say that they were able to face their accusers that day. However, Bill Buckingham and Alan Bonsall, Alan, who had been in court every day, wasn't there that particular day. Now, this is in the New Yorker, and Margaret Talbot did an amazing piece on covering the trial for the New Yorker. And by the way, Eric Rothschild, the day that this came out, called me on the phone and went, cheerful mercilessness, it doesn't get any better than that for an attorney. But it said, for 6 weeks, the courtroom of Judge Johnny Jones III was like the biology class you wished you could have taken. And that was so true. I found that so, I mean, every day I'd run into that. I'd be gulping down coffee to stay alert, and I'd be burning the back of my throat, running in just so I could sit there. Just what else was I going to learn about? You know, whale evolution today? Was I going to learn about the Archaeopteryx today? This is so cool. And it's sort of, a lot of people said, well, you know, I feel sorry for you that you have to sit through this 6-week trial about boring science stuff. And I never understood that. And I'm going to read a little piece from my book that sort of illustrates just why it was so much fun. If I, there it is. Dr. Robert Pennock, the expert witness to follow Miller, told the court that intelligent design proponents have deeper motives than just getting their concept into biology class. They want nothing less than to return science to the days of pre-Enlightenment. Pennock, a philosophy of science professor at Michigan State University, outlined what he argues is the movement's ultimate goal, to create a revolution in science, taking it back to the days when people believed epilepsy was caused by divine possession and gravity was the result of spooky action at a distance. Genial and enthusiastic, Pennock loves talking about concepts that most people can barely comprehend. In his cross-examination by Patrick Gillen, Pennock explained that in some ways, creation science is more scientific than intelligent design. Even though its tenets have all been refuted by the scientific community, creation science at least puts forth arguments that are testable, such as the idea that the Earth is 6,000 years old, and that the geological record was formed by the Great Flood. But intelligent design departs from testable claims, such as assertions of the Earth's age, and relies solely on supernatural explanations. In this way, it can't be falsified, he told the court. Then Pennock, leaning forward in his chair, said, for all we know, the world may have been created 5 minutes ago, and we've just been implanted with memories to make us think it's much longer, right? Now, my columnist, Mike Argento, for the York Daily Record, wrote in his column the next day, and thus, did intelligent design somehow join me? Wow, have you ever looked at your hand? I mean, really looked. School of Stoner epistemology. Mike Argento wrote brilliant columns through that whole trial. And I remember thinking when all this was going on, why didn't I learn this in science class? Where the hell was I? Why wasn't I paying attention? So now, all right.